We will be going into executive session to discuss particular personnel matters. So let's start right in on 2.01, the budget presentation.
Good evening, everyone. It's been a busy past few weeks since we're wrapping up the budget process, so I'm going to take you through quickly where we've been and how we're wrapping up the process for the year. So here's the budget recaps from the various departments you've heard from to date. Just want to point out as a reminder that the large increase percentage-wise for human resources was because of the addition of a full-time position to support the benefits area. Other than that, it was a pretty routine budget season there. This is a list of all the budget considerations that you've also heard from the various departments. We had a very candid discussion with the board last week, and we incorporated your feedback in the budget proposal we'll see tonight. So on the left side, we had a budget gap of $6.4 million. Tax cap calculation, no changes at this point. Still at the 8.63% and $3.2 million. So here's a summary of the revenue adjustments that have been made since the budget was rolled out in February. Based on our discussion last time, we have increased property taxes by $1.4 million for the 3.97% levy limit as discussed. The building aid, we also discussed last time at $71 million. I did take the opportunity to go back through our transportation aid calculation that is based on projections sent to the city last August. So now that we're wrapping up the year and I'm kind of seeing where 1819 is landing, I updated the projection and the opportunity for more aid. Foundation aid was frankly kind of a bummer when we got the final state budget at whopping $24,000 extra. So not quite what we had hoped for. A little extra excess cost aid. Looking at our trends of insurance, our stop-loss insurance payments, we were comfortable increasing that by $200,000 in the budget as a good estimate of what we typically receive. And then a few miscellaneous minor adjustments for total adjustments of $1,963,000. Several budget adjustments here. Several salary adjustments offset by the savings we realized from various retirements. The group went through our posting services and made our modifications, and were able to make adjustments for both the budget. Capital project interest, as I mentioned last time, did go up to increase the amount of borrowings that we were anticipating needing at that time. We did close on our bus bond this year, and interest rates were better than estimated, so I was able to make a $35,000 reduction for bus bond interest. Health claims, you saw the data last time, they're going up. At this point, I have been able to increase the budget for health claims $365,000. TRS and ERS have been reduced by $452,000, primarily due to the reduction in the TRS rate. Several, miscellaneous adjustments totaling $159,000, and based on the current premium equivalents that we're receiving from Excellus, we will be receiving more from employee contributions, which is an offset to our expenses. So also their budget adjustments of $220,000.
The next part is the surprise. What are we going to be able to do in our budget? We had the discussion at our last meeting. So my administrative team, especially Katie, who's probably got so much magic with the numbers and being able to work through a lot of the problems. We tried to take the comments from the board at the last time, as well as the needs of the school. And at the end of this, we still have a little work to do, but we believe that we can put the following into this budget. Mr. Johnson. I see that. I mean, barring any foreseen surprises in this budget. We feel that we can get to this point. But that if we have a surprise, that will be our first reduction down to 2, which is where we initially thought. But we still have a couple more weeks, and we want to make sure we don't have any other surprises coming into the budget, especially along the lines of health that Katie has had to deal with in the past 24 hours. We feel we'd be able to have a cleaner, the intermediate student school student council stipend, 1 bus monitor at this point, an assistant cross-country coach, which we may also look at it as a varsity program and have boys and girls we can trade off there. The high school, middle school calculators, we are doing, instead it was at 90, we were doing about a third. And then the repeater system, which was also an emergency, we were only going to do the bus repeater system this year, and we look at that in the future years. And then we've already contacted the town. They do have an SRO available that we would be able to bring the SRO in as well. And I think between the SRO at the elementary as well as the secondary assistants with the elementary social workers, we will have the makings of being able to make sure that we adjust to the changing environment around us with our students and our population and train to be more readily prepared for those students in the future, that this is not just to support, but also to help our teachers adjust to the changing clientele. So we hope that these considerations, although we left some on, we may have to still look at the 504 piece, but at this point, this is what we feel comfortable with. We hope the board would agree, similar to what we discussed at the last meeting. So ultimately, it brings us to the final budget development with some final tweaking over the next week or so. Okay.
So with those changes, our gap is reduced to 3.2 million. So just want to circle back to what Dr. Douglas was referencing with the strike that happened in the last 24 hours. As what happened last year, Excel surprised us kind of at the 11th hour with an increase in our stop loss insurance rates. If we want to maintain our same threshold, all inclusive of all of our claimants, it would be a budgetary increase of $1.2 million this year. So,
Katie's being kind. What actually happened is we were doing our other business in the district yesterday, and about, I think it was
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, she all of a sudden looks up, and not the nicest of mood, and I understand, but she just received that email. So we were all set, and we had to work this all into today and make a plan. We will be bringing some discussion point to the Finance Committee, similar to what we had last year, because right now we may have to.
Right, so Caitlin and I, along with Pam Collins, spent quite a bit of time on the phone this morning with the consultant that we've hired to help us with our health insurance plan, to understand, what this proposal means, what our best options are. Excellus did provide the 2 options as they did last year, a rate inclusive of our membership and a lower rate if we carve out a couple of our higher claimants. We talked about that and what that all means, and we will talk about it more in finance, but we may be recommending that it's time to consider and lengthening out and going with the lesser proposal. But we'll get more details at Finance Committee and what we're looking at. If we go with that lingering option, it's a minimal impact to our budget. There is potential of a higher deductible on certain claimants, but that has to be weighed against an increase of $1.2 million to keep them in the plan. So lots of things to consider. Caitlin and I will be discussing that more at length. Anything that comes to that meeting that is a budget adjustment, we'll talk about that more on the 24th. Any questions on that?
That is factored into this budget at the, I don't know the word, the same rates that we're currently with very little impact to the budget, correct?
Yeah. So that aside, at this point, with this budget gap of 3.2, that gap is representative of the same levels of fund balance and reserve that we've used for 18-19. So technically balanced yet, but the work is not done. We are going to continue working in the next few weeks to find opportunities to step off some of the fund balance as we've been doing, or step off some of the use of reserves, to continue the district moving forward in that regard. Any questions on that? So this is just a budget to budget comparison, where 1920 stands currently against 1819. 3.4 million increase, 4.5%.
I don't know that I caught it. So the calculators, we're doing those a third this year, a third the next year, a third in the future?
Yep.
Okay. And the repeater system
We'll do the bus garage and the buses first in 1920, and then we'll come back the following year and look at the district.
okay, so that's about half of the cost?
About 60,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank
And
you.
that is aidable for transportation aid.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Debt service is going up because of the bond projects.
We're doing a borrowing each year to keep our cash flow consistent with the borrowing, or the needs of the project. Any other questions?
Do you have the numbers? You mentioned that it's the gap as it exists then in the previous slide is representative of what we did last year in terms of fund balance and reserve. I just don't have that. Do you have those numbers?
I do, yep. So currently, we're using $2 million in fund balance.
This is from last year.
Yep, currently 1819. 500,000 of the debt service fund. 588 from the employee retirement reserve. 150,000 from the employee benefits. Just a small piece, 12,000 from unemployment in 1819, but I did use that in 9,000 in 1920 just based on what we're budgeting for expenses.
So roughly, those same numbers, with a little bit of adjustment, would close that gap of 3.25. That's right.
Yep. Although I do want to look at those numbers and see if there's room to start, continue to reduce those as we've been doing.
Right. Do you have any concerns that if we were to have to use those same numbers, that it would have any detrimental impact on the reserve position or the fund balance position? Or do you feel like there's that level of flexibility?
No, I think we're still good. Our reserves are still maintain a healthy balance. And to date, we haven't actually had to dip into the $2 million in fund balance.
To date, in the 18 to 19 budget year, that remains.
Correct. So far, we're still projecting a surplus at the end of the year. Not as
Full.
bullet, right?
Robust.
As what we've seen. Robust, yeah, full, robust, obviously. But still a surplus. But again, it all depends on how our health things finish out for the year too.
Okay. Right now, that's sort of our protection with our healthcare plan.
Yep.
So this may be the first year we hit it, remains to be seen.
Two questions for you. One, on the revenue side, did it look like the state aid was a little less than 300,000? Is that what?
For the increase,
Or, yeah, I guess from year to year. What was our percentage? I mean, if I add up all the aids, it was a little bit under 300K, so it'd be like a 1% gain for horses. Is that?
They said it's like 3.18 or something on aid loans, but that's never accurate.
now in this transportation aid increase was not on the final proposal run, that was an adjustment made based on our actual expenses.
So these are adjustments to what you previously had thought was coming.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are.
Yes, so
adjustments.
starting point
Okay.
in February.
So we got maybe 3%. Okay. Second question is on the 3.2 million deficit, and then the stop loss would be on top of that. So it could be as bad as $4.3 million deficit if we go with
If we
the,
have to.
if we have to choose the
Yeah.
1 point,
Right.
more expensive stop
Then I
loss.
go back to the drawing board, trying to figure out ways to
Okay.
rebalance the budget to incorporate that extra expense.
Got it. Okay.
One of the things that Katie updated me on today is that they've already tried to do like what we did in finance last year, the cost benefit analysis from shifting to one to the other versus what's known as the lasering. The risk reward is more what Katie has adopted because we also know some things we cannot disclose here.
Katie, with the 3.97 as a potential tax levy decision, I know that in previous years it's been the actual rate impact is something it's different,
Yeah.
but it's also something it's not really knowable or quantifiable until it's a point later in the process. Is that?
Yeah, so,
You speak to when we might be able to estimate that?
yeah, it's my intent to talk about that at the next presentation.
Okay.
I do have, just ballpark it for you now. The current billings I have from the county, did go up some from the billings they gave me in February, but not a whole lot. So with this tax levy, without digging too much into the equalization rate at this point, it's a 3.4% rate increase.
So closer to the actual sort of.
This year, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It all depends what the final
Yeah, these are still preliminary assessments.
in September.
Still room for change.
Okay.
We can only offer the estimate and the trend. The trend has been lower, and this still is, but right now the growth hasn't been as much lower as it has been in the past.
Understood.
I think roughly we're estimating that we're going to be close to the levy of taxes that the district did raise right about at the time that I came and the merger discussion was going on. So over 4 to 5 full years, virtually taxes have gone down and they're returned right to that point. That's the rough estimate at this point. So over 5 years, virtually, if you look at it over a 5-year period, taxes have neither gone down or gone up, but people won't be returned.
Right.
So you have to.
Right.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind too is the upcoming change to the way the STAR exemption is paid out. So that'll psychologically have an effect on the taxpayers. So
I will tell you from experiencing it, because I bought it after they changed, I bought a house after they changed the STAR. If it's in escrow, I don't think about it as much, but I do love the check all of a sudden when it shows up in October, which is kind of funny. It was always it's a week right before the election day, but it's your full STAR savings that you otherwise would have had. The hard part is making sure that it goes right back to your tax account, because my son likes to say, ooh, bonus.
Any other thoughts or comments on where we stand?
Just to comment, I think obviously a lot of work was done to try to include the adjustments that we talked about as important and heard from the staff as to what are important. So I think that's commendable, and hopefully, we'll be able to stick to that. Obviously, I realize, Dr. Lopez, as you point out, there's some uncertainty as we look through the potential impact of the stop loss decision, which could be significant. But I just think it's good that we were able to address the social needs, academic needs, that we talked about. So
We've tried to stay broad spectrum as we have over the past 3 years, so that's through the hard work of the board as well as your guidance. So thank you. You're welcome. Basically, once we have the next board meeting, we would bring back what we feel is the final to be adopted. We also have to have the report card adopted that night because it has to be put in the next day. As soon as that's done, we've already scheduled 4 meetings out with the community villages and the town halls so that we can get the information out. We will already have Sue's first blush newsletter, the propositions, which will already be out by that point. And then Sue will be transitioning probably tomorrow on starting the budget newsletter so that we're ready to hit the street the day after the budget vote. Give as much time as possible to the community. Okay. Any other questions? That's almost the end of the budget presentation. We just got a little tweaking and I think we're pretty close except for one final decision of being ready for the 23rd. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.